Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
The wokers.
There's no ice cream in hell.
The Nation, Waldorf Nation. Welcome to the show. It's a good show that we have planned today. Lots of fun stories. We've got Rudy Giuliani. We've got Senator John Kennedy talking about kale for some reason. Just lots of ridiculous stories. We have a Herschel Walker story. By the way, of course, today's the day. An election going on. Uh-oh. Oh boy. And you know what that means.
This election is about the people.
It is about the people, everybody. It is about the people. And we have to make sure get our voices heard.
Tallywhacker.
Okay, anyway. Fun times. We've got that. We have Mitch McConnell getting snubbed. Fun. I love it. And then, of course, we also have bad news. Steven Crowder. Stephen Crowder is related to this story, but in reality, what we're going to talk about a bit is how right-wingers want to, of course, come after the LGBTQIA plus community, which is horrible, and Russia actually just did so. So we're going to give you the details on that, and then we're going to get to Steven Crowder's reaction to it. It will be disgusting and vile. So there we are. All right. So before we get into the stories today, I just do want to do a little programming note. Somebody actually kind of brings it up in the chat here. Tomorrow, I will be on Ring of Fire podcast with Farron Cousins. It's at noon Eastern. Going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if he's planning on doing it live. If not, y'all can watch the replay. It's going to be probably about 45 minutes to an hour or so. But yeah, that's going to be really, really fun. We're going to discuss a bunch of different topics. So looking forward to that. All right. So that said, why don't we dive in to the first story? Rudy Giuliani losing his brain. Okay. Former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani continues to embarrass himself in very strange yet hilarious ways. So, look, during a video call scheduled for his bar disciplinary hearing. So that's a very serious issue. The DC Bar Association is going to determine if Giuliani helping Donald Trump try to overthrow democracy in this country, to end democracy in this country, is actually worthy of him losing his license to practice law. Now, during this meeting, however, it got derailed when Giuliani accidentally admitted to a wardrobe malfunction.
Okay. You know I have 2 watches on. Mr. Leventhal, you have something to say.
I said we'll try to work on the microphone during the lunch.
Thank you.
You may also want to work on the camera. What is that? It looks terrible. Now, look, seated next to him, Giuliani, was his lawyer, John Leventhal. He was like, dude, what are you talking about? The hot mic? Hot mic! You got a hot mic? Oh, shoot. Oh, it turns out I actually have 2 watches on at the same time. Okay, weird. Why does he have 2 watches on? I don't know. Why am I wearing 2 watches? How did this happen? Who am I? What am I doing here? I don't understand. Please tell me. I mean, this guy's losing his brain. His mind is melting. It probably rolled out his ears. Like what we thought was probably hair dye. It's actually just his brain. And he'll have a lot of explaining to do as to why it's black. But anyway, okay. No, honestly though, when I first heard wardrobe malfunction related to Rudy Giuliani, I got a little concerned. I was like, oh no. What do you mean? What do you mean wardrobe malfunction? But thankfully, he just put on 2 watches for some reason, and I'm just happy he remembered to wear pants. Because, look, you never know, okay? You never know. The guy's, like, plastered 24/7. I guess if you're Rudy Giuliani, you would need to be plastered to forget the fact that you were Rudy Giuliani. But look, that aside, the guy is a gift that keeps on giving, man. From the 4 seasons to the hair dye to the butt dialing of reporters, the farting on during a court case, very, very audibly, by the way, in Jenna Ellis's face. We shall never forget that gas word heard around the world. His brain is melting. I mean, again, who puts on 2 watches on the same wrist? I'm sure some people do it. Maybe there's like a fashion statement or something on that. But not for Rudy Giuliani. No. And again, can the guy not afford, like he can afford 2 watches at the same time, but apparently not a decent video camera? He's not winning with that webcam. But anyway, fun aside, let's get to some substance here. So it turns out it is actually pretty important, the reason that he was on the Zoom call in the first place. And look, he pushed the nonsense voter fraud cases all over the country. I remember, you know, we all remember the different court cases that he had lost, that the Trump campaign had lost as a result of Trump's lawyers of them not having any evidence. It turns out now he's in trouble for doing that because he didn't bring any evidence. Now, the Washington Post notes that during his testimony, Giuliani minimized his role in a lawsuit that falsely alleged the 2020 presidential election was filled with fraud in Pennsylvania. So this is dealing with the Pennsylvania case. Now, Hamilton Phil Fox III, the lead prosecuting attorney for DC Bar's Office of Disciplinary Counsel, called Giuliani's fraud allegations in Pennsylvania, quote unquote, unfounded. Well, that's because he didn't have any evidence. So now Pennsylvania had changed their elections, their voting system specifically. They updated it, as most of our election voting systems, I should say, in this country. Update, there's outdated infrastructure. There's some real problems. We're not winning with it, okay? Now, Fox argued that although several courts did find some kinks in the voting system in Pennsylvania, that doesn't mean fraud. There's no evidence of fraud, and is alleging that Giuliani had weaponized his law license by filing a frivolous lawsuit. and as a result should have his license suspended or revoked. Now, Giuliani has already had his law license in New York suspended for doing the same thing, for fueling what happened on January 6th. Now, Fox said this: there was no case in law nor fact for which Mr. Giuliani set forth on grounds of fraud. And again, it's because he didn't allege fraud, because he didn't have the evidence, and you actually have to prove that in court. And if you lie about it, well, then you're basically committing perjury. And that'll get you in trouble. So now, in response, Giuliani claimed, no, it wasn't me. It was another attorney. Ah, yes, another attorney had actually been the one to draft the initial complaints, and that he only added a few paragraphs. Oh, see, I barely added anything. Fox then introduced a second complaint that was filed, in which Giuliani said the fraud allegations were removed, but then Giuliani admitted that he instructed to have the fraud allegations added back in to the complaint, even knowing that he didn't have any of the evidence to back it up. Kind of a problem. But get a load of his excuse. Now, Giuliani says, what? Look, we didn't have the evidence because everything was moving so fast. I mean, all these lawsuits were filed so quickly after the election, there just wasn't time to get the evidence. Then you don't file the lawsuit. Again, if you don't have the evidence, why are you filing the lawsuit? If you don't have the claim of fraud, then why are you filing the lawsuit in order to stop the election based on fraud? But he said the team put the information in the complaint that they believe was accurate at the time, but they had expected to obtain the facts later. Oh, later. Of course. Well, that's how it works. Yeah. We'll just file the lawsuit now, alleging this systematic election and voter fraud without any evidence. But don't worry, we'll have that evidence later. Yeah, we'll get it later. Come on, at some point, we'll bring it forward. Maybe after Donald Trump takes over. Yeah. Look, here's the thing, though, about that. They've had all the time in the world to bring up evidence now, and it still never materialized. Gee, I wonder why. Oh, right, it's because it doesn't exist. There wasn't widespread voter fraud. There wasn't election fraud. Look, you need evidence if you're going to ask the state to throw out tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of ballots, and in so doing, handing the presidency over to somebody who didn't win, or just stopping the peaceful transfer of power outright. And that's what they were trying to do, by the way. But see, understand that Giuliani knew that Trump didn't actually win. Donald Trump knew that he didn't actually win, and has admitted so. In between his rants, he would accidentally slip, oh yeah, I actually didn't. And then all of his sycophants, same thing, admitting we don't actually have evidence. Mike Bill, or maybe they say, I do have the evidence, I just don't want to show anybody. Oh, okay, well, so you've got it, but you're not going to show us the evidence, but you want us to say, to trust you anyway. Trust me, bro, I've got it. It's right here. It's in the van. Okay, it's sitting in the back seat right now. I can't show you. That's what they're doing. But the fact, again, that they went along with all these lawsuits, 60 of them, and they lost all of them. The fact that they went ahead with that Giuliani was there, is exactly why he shouldn't be allowed to practice law anymore, because obviously he doesn't seem to understand it. Okay. Evidence provided by Trust Me Bro Incorporated. True. Okay. So let's go to Old Man versus Kale. So good.
the wokers.
Okay. During a recent event for Herschel Walker, Senator John Kennedy decided to go after woke, high IQ people and kale. Take a look.
These woke, high IQ, stupid people, they're easy to recognize. They hate George Washington. They hate Thomas Jefferson. They hate Dr. Zeus, and they hate Mr. Potato Head. These woke, high IQ, stupid people, they walk around with Ziploc bags of kale that they can eat to give them energy. Now, if you want to eat kale, that's up to you. I don't eat kale. You know why? Because kale tastes to me like I'd rather be fat. And these high IQ stupid people, the wokers in charge in Washington, D.C., the berserk wing of the Democratic Party, they hyperventilate on their yoga mats if you use the wrong pronoun. They're all over Washington, D.C.
I'm sorry. I'm watching this guy, and it's actually hilarious. This has got it. If I didn't know better, you would think that this is a bit, because that's what that's what it looks like. It's what it sounds like. Oh, these wokers! Oh, they're hyperventilating on their yoga mats about pronouns. We got the wokers. Oh, okay, Grandpa, let's get you to bed. Okay, yep. Oh, yeah. Oh, yep. Bags full of kale. Yep. Show us in the doll where the mean, high IQ, stupid people touched you. Okay. Wow. Oh, Mr. Potato Head. You're Mr. Potato Head. Look, obviously, everything that he said there is absolutely ridiculous. Oh, they're walking around with bags of kale, eating it for energy. Yeah, that's why you eat. You eat things for energy. He's a really, really great example of a high IQ stupid person. I've never seen a better example. And by the way, Senator Kennedy's education includes attending Magdalen College in 1979. Before that, he was at the University of Virginia School of Law in 77. And in 73, he went to Vanderbilt University. Yes. High IQ, stupid people. But anyway, so our grandpa over here is railing about
the wokers.
All right. And making up stories. I mean, it really shows you what they're focused on. When Republicans get back into power, what do you think they're going to talk about? Well, obviously Hunter Biden. And then the wokers. I IQ stupid people. This is manufactured culture war nonsense. They ain't going to do a damn thing for you if they ever get back into power. How does this solve inflation? How does this ensure that families can make, ends meet? It doesn't. None of the stuff that he's talking about is a real issue in this country. It's not reality. It doesn't help you at all. The issues that he's talking about, they're not even issues. They're not even issues. And by the way, just one thing. It is kind of funny. One thing that it was all funny, but I did like what he said. Kale tastes to me like I'd rather be fat. I don't know. I kind of agree with that. But like I said, I've never had kale. Not really interested. But there's nothing wrong with it either. But it does go back to showing you what they actually view the left, how they view the left. All right? I mean, somehow, there's this image on the right of what the left looks like. somehow that there are a bunch of soy drinking, kale eating, effeminate ladyboys who are somehow too smart because they hate education. They have a war on education and educated people that melt down every time somebody uses the wrong pronouns. When literally, all the right wing, and this is what's funny about it, all the right wing does is melt down when a gay or trans person happens to be on their TV. Or, you know, just literally existing. What's the right wing doing right now? They're melting down over drag queens. Hey, if you don't like drag queens, you don't have to go to drag shows. But some people love to go to drag shows. Why do you want to stop them? Why do you hate freedom? Why do you hate freedom, Senator Kennedy? But what's worse is that the right wing also does violence. Again, as a result of all these manufactured culture wars, you've had literal bomb threats against children's hospitals. You've had states that have been passing anti-trans bills. This isn't about pronouns. And sure, pronouns are a part of gender-affirming care, which they want to ban. No, what the left is trying to do is trying to save the lives of at-risk teens. They're at risk because of transphobia. Yeah, because of bigotry. Because of these nonsense culture war issues. In reality, the left is more pro-life than they could ever be. Because we actually care about living human beings, even when they look and act different. Hey, right-wingers, you might want to try it sometime. You might be surprised how good it feels not to hate someone who happens to be a little different. But as far as John Kennedy is concerned, he's just once again showing what he's about. No substance at all. Just fake performative nonsense outrage. It's all they got.
The wokers.
Okay. Let's move on. I eat kale, tongue spinach, carrot, collards, lettuce. If I can grow it, I eat it. Hey, that's smart. Totally. If that's something that you like to do it. Insufferable Republican tells supporters not to eat vegetables. Not surprising. You know what? True. That is true. I never thought of it that way. Well done. All right. That was a video of Capitol police officers who had served on January 6th at the Capitol building, snubbing Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy. Awesome. Now, this happened again during a ceremony where congressional gold medals were awarded to the officers that held back the MAGA mob that was literally chanting to hang the vice president. You know, Mike Pence. I hear people call him Mike. Hang Mike Pence. But I'm sure, of course, as right-wingers say it, they were just chanting, hang my pants. Come on. No, what they did, of course, is they smashed windows, they smeared feces all over the walls, stole government property, for example, Nancy Pelosi's laptop, and were trying to hunt down members of Congress. Some of them had zip ties and were trying to take them hostage. Luckily, that did not happen because you had the Capitol Police that were the only reason that members of Congress were not harmed that day. And yet, here we had members, 21 House Republicans, members of Congress, who voted against awarding the medals to the officers. Now, that said, Mitch McConnell, not a member of the House. Mitch McConnell's a senator. He didn't vote against awarding the medals, that, as far as I know. Well, what's the snub? Why is the snub? Well, because he voted to acquit Trump during his impeachment trial. That's my guess. He has showed absolutely no spine, even when Donald Trump would attack his wife, Elaine Chao, who served as Trump's transportation secretary until she resigned on January 6th as a result. And Mitch McConnell is also incredibly weak when it comes to actually holding Donald Trump accountable. He'll say things, but that's all it is. They're just words. They don't mean a damn thing, which is why I'm going to show you again why he deserved this to happen. In slow-mo. Sad turtle noises. So now next to him, of course, was Kevin McCarthy. So Kevin McCarthy, also someone who shows absolutely no spine when it comes to Trump. Now, first, he went after Trump for inspiring January 6th. Then just weeks later, he went crawling on his hands and knees, Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump, begging for forgiveness. They're all cucks for Trump. And it's absolutely embarrassing. If you're a Republican, how is that not embarrassing? Get on your knees for Donald Trump. Crawl around. Crawl to Mar-a-Lago. Beg for forgiveness. It's sad. It's so pathetic. These are the people, by the way, when it comes to cops, they're all about back to blue. Oh, thin blue line. We got to protect the cops. We love the police. These are the people that would say that they would literally suck the leather off the boots if you're a cop. But it turns out the only reason they love cops is when they're beating the hell out of minorities. That's it. Or when they're kidnapping journalists off the streets during racial justice protests so that they can do mass arrests for people that weren't involved in the violence or the vandalism and get away with it. That's what they would do. Again, they would pull up in their in vans and just abduct people off the street and then drop them off somewhere else after giving them a ride. Turns out Republicans love those police officers, but when it comes to the Capitol, no. Because in the Capitol building, well, they actually ended up doing something against MAGA, against white MAGA chuds. And when that happens, well, they're all about crying about, oh my God, big government tyranny. We hate it. The cops, oh, we don't like the cops anymore. There's the double standard that you have. And you can see it. We can all see it. And by the way, the police also see it. These cops that were at the Capitol, they were in no way liberal. Okay. They're not lefties. They're not progressives. They're conservatives. Because law enforcement is usually filled to the brim with conservatives. But at this point, even they have realized that MAGA has become both violent and unhinged. And partly because of Donald Trump emboldening the MAGA extremist elements that have always existed, by the way. And that includes like the militias, the anti-government people, especially the right-wing conspiracy theorists. And now that part of the Republican base, well, they're a legitimate threat to law enforcement. And and remember, these law enforcement officers are like, look, we signed up to protect the Capitol, maybe bust some libs, black people, whatever. We didn't sign up to get targeted by insane insurrectionists. What are you doing? And it's funny in a way because the extremists on the right, a lot of them believe that the police would be on their side. We're just going to let them stroll into the Capitol building and do whatever they want. And that did not go as planned. And then when they pushed back, again, after the surprise, because the police actually did their job, they held their ground, they did what they, were supposed to do, the Chuds then went on a rampage. And it's just funny how that worked out. Except that it wasn't actually funny. Now, that said, Since the Capitol riots, we've seen a lot of excuses as to why, police at that point were outnumbered. Some of them even went to blame Nancy Pelosi for not, blocking the House Sergeant at Arms. And there's, lies about Donald Trump ordering people into the Capitol. Didn't actually happen. The House Sergeant at Arms, who sits in the Capitol Police Board, opted not to request the National Guard ahead of the insurrection, but did eventually request assistance after the rioting had already begun, but it took a while to get there. There were so many different failures here in this case that allowed the MAGA insurrectionists to get into the Capitol building itself. That said, MAGA didn't expect, the cops didn't expect the insurrection. They were woefully unprepared, despite numerous warnings. They could not believe that white right-wingers would do something violent, even though when it comes to domestic terrorism in this country, who leads? White-wing extremists. So, did I say right-wing? White right-wing extremists, but it's all the same, really. And here's the thing: Capitol rioters didn't expect the cops to fight back, at least to the point of what they did. The thing about that, though, is a lot of us on the left, we did see this coming. We know who the violent ones are. We told you that Trump and his cronies were dangerous. We said that the right wing, the far right, is the real danger. Not the so-called far left, that in this country, the far left wants health care for everybody. That's dangerous far left, wanting health care for everybody. Oh my God. They saw that as a real danger, but in reality, the right wing, the far right, has always been the danger in this country. They are the domestic terrorists, literally. Look up the FBI statistics on it. Now, what we see here from, this snub, which was fantastic to watch because it's a great, video to watch, McConnell get all like sad and pathetic. But also it does kind of show you that these police officers, some of the people in law enforcement that had to face down that mob that day, well, they're starting to understand that, oh, turns out it is the right wing, the far right, that's the problem. And we're not going to, shake hands with anybody that continues to either run cover for them or embolden them. And I think that's a positive step. Okay. Let's go to Herschel Walker. Color me surprised on this one, but not surprised. A pair of Republican senators have been raising money on behalf of Senate candidate Herschel Walker, who is facing Democrat Raphael Warnock in Georgia's incredibly important runoff, which will decide, of course, the fate of the Senate. Will we have 51-49 for Democrats, or will the Senate remain split 50-50? That's actually incredibly relevant. And so Warnock, if he ends up winning, that's going to be huge. So that said, according to the Salt Lake Tribune, the help in boosting Herschel Walker is not free, as they found out. Turns out half of the money donated to Herschel Walker's campaign gets redirected to Senators Mike Lee and Representative Burgess Owens. And it actually gets worse than that. Before that, let me get into the details. Tribune explains. A fundraising email sent by Lee's campaign last week is meant to look like he's forwarding a plea from Herschel Walker, warning that Senator Warnock is actually raising more campaign cash than Walker, and that he needs help. He needs help. Warnock has been drastically outraising him, And we have to pick up the pace. The email from Lee reads, "Please rush a generous contribution to help finish your job and pull off a huge win for Herschel." With a 50-50 Senate, Republicans still have a chance to defeat the worst of Biden's agenda and stop him from appointing liberal judges. Oh my God. This is according to Lee's pitch to potential donors. "But if we lose Georgia and the Democrats gain an outright Senate majority, there's no way we can stop him." Except for literally the filibuster. But okay. Now, email recipients are sent to a donation website featuring a massive picture of Walker next to a box with suggested contributions ranging from just $25 to a paltry $2,900. A disclaimer says that any donations will benefit both Lee and Walker, but it does not specify how the money would be divided. And again, we find out that it's actually 50-50. That Lee is taking half, literally half. Now, the email from Owens touts Walker as determined to stop the Democrat agenda. Yes, if, childcare, healthcare for people. Yes. America needs fighters like Herschel who aren't afraid to stand up to the left. He's pushing back against their socialist. I wish. What socialist policies? And running against one of Biden's handpicked puppets. The email reads under a picture of Owens and Walker. "If donors miss a link that says click here for details or to edit allocation, you would not know," according to the St. Louis Salt Lake Tribune, that half of their contribution would end up in Lee's campaign account instead of the money going to Walker as well as Owens' account. If a contributor clicks in the bouncing $50 suggested donation, $25 automatically goes to Lee if no changes are made. If someone decides to donate an amount other than the recommended levels, that too would be split 50-50 unless an extra step is taken to adjust the amounts. An extra step that I'm pretty sure no one does. Similarly, donations made to Walker through Owens' website are also split evenly unless donors change the allocation. So now look, I look at the story. Number one, I think. Number two, Republicans have done some pretty shady things when it comes to donations. But that said, I think the worst still comes from Donald Trump, who literally got in trouble for automatically enrolling people who donate into recurring donations. You had to find and click a button to opt out, which is not easy to find. I mean, think about it this way, right? So you already have the misfortune of being somebody who wants to give Trump money. So you might not be all that smart. Keep it real. Not smart people. They're not sending their best. But okay, do you want to send money to Trump? Oh, okay, maybe I'm a little too mean in saying they're not smart. Maybe they're not informed. Informed is better. Okay, so they're not very well informed. Now, you go and make a donation, and then what happens? It automatically takes the same amount every month, unless you specifically find the button to opt out. That's a problem. Donors had to manually uncheck a box, and the notice of recurring donations was allegedly included only in a fine print statement, according to the New York Times. The news outlet also found that as election day neared, the Trump campaign added a second pre-checked box that doubled a person's contribution, along with new lines of text in bold and capital letters that the paper said would distract from language informing donors on how to opt out of the automatic donation plan. As a result of this chicanery, the Trump 2020 re-election campaign had to issue roughly $122 million in refunds to supporters in 2020. Because they were scammed. They were ripped off. Hey, moron, you decided to give us money? All right, we're going to take you for all you're worth. Oh, yeah. Hey, if you're dumb enough to give to a Republican, why not? You've already said that you're an idiot. And that's how they feel about you, by the way. Now, that said, getting back to this, it's not quite as bad or as blatant, but it doesn't really tell you that you're giving half of your donation to these other Republicans. And then while also claiming that Walker's campaign has been outspent 3-1 by Warnock and 2-1 by outside groups. Gee, if only you would give them all of your donation instead of skimming half off. But as I said, it gets worse. As I mentioned, Trump before is the king of scams. Before he got caught, Trump was keeping 90% of the cash that he solicited for Herschel Walker, and then was forced to change it to 50-50. And that's not even the worst part. The National Republican Senatorial Campaign, the NRSC, the campaign arm of Senate Republicans, they kept 99 cents out of every dollar raised for Herschel Walker, according to the New York Times Shane Goldmacher. 99 cents of every dollar. Oh, you're going to give to Herschel Walker? No, you're giving to us now. Nothing says do not believe in our own candidate more, than taking the majority or even half of the donations to said candidate. That's amazing. Maybe it's because they know it's going to get wasted. After all, it's literally Herschel Walker.
This election is about the people.
It is. Oh, yes. You might as well light your money on fire before giving it to Republicans and do more good. And maybe it would actually do less evil. But like I said, lying to your donors, I know they're Republicans. And maybe I shouldn't care that they're getting scammed. But I do have this really pesky, terrible thing called empathy. I know. It's weird, right? And I look at this, I look at the fact that the right is such a target-rich environment for scammers to operate in, and boy, are they operating. It is almost too easy to dupe right-wingers out of their money. They do it all the time. And I don't know, I just feel like they have the right to know that their own party sees them as suckers. They really do. Easy marks, rubes, hey, dum-dum. Oh, you're going to give your money to us? We're going to screw you over so bad. Not just with our policies, which benefit the rich, of course, but also we're just going to screw you out of even more money just because we can. It's amazing. By the way, it had gotten so bad that Walker's campaign was like, please stop. We don't have any money. You're taking it all. Yeah, sure, we appreciate the promotion, I guess. But you're taking almost all of our money. We don't have anything to work with. We have consultants to pay. Now, Georgia Representative Austin Scott, according to NBC News, accused other Republicans of using Herschel Walker to capture data and donors for themselves, and urged supporters to donate to Walker directly, according to Fox News. Oh, are they exploiting a black man? Republicans exploiting a black man to get money for themselves? No, that would never, ever happen. Except that it would totally happen. I mean, this is amazing. This is just absolutely, blatant in what they're doing. They're just taking the money and not telling anybody, screwing them over. And screwing over Herschel Walker, which they never cared about at all. The only reason that they want Herschel Walker is, number one, so they can say, we're not racist. We got the black man. I remember I showed you the video of Lindsey Graham. He's like, well, the Republican Party, we can't be racist. Well, we've got a black guy. We got Herschel Walker. See, automatically, all charges of racism, gone. Gone. You can't say that because we got a black guy. Ridiculous. It's not how that works. But then again, they're actually using Herschel Walker's campaign because they don't believe he's going to win. But if he does, he's only smart enough at this point to sign the legislation that gives himself tax cuts. Because ultimately, that's the point of Republicans, to give their donors gigantic tax cuts and cut regulation for business. Well, that's exactly what Herschel Walker wants to do for himself. And so he'll gladly do it for the donors as well. But anyway, a spokesperson for Lee's campaign, however, had responded and said a separate company handled their online fundraising and believed that the 50-50 split was a default setting. The webpage for Lee's fundraising on behalf of Walker is managed by WinRed, the GOP's online donation platform. Oh, was half the money meant for Herschel Walker going to us? Oh, I had no idea. What are you talking about? No, it must be the default setting. Well then, why don't you give back the money that you had skimmed off the top? Why don't you give it back to Herschel Walker's campaign? Why don't you do that then? If you didn't know, I mean, now, of course, they're not going to, because I think they planned it all along. They're going to pocket the money for their own campaigns. Now, that said, I hope Herschel Walker loses. I have no love for Republicans. But if you don't see how Republicans view their voters and donors as nothing more than marks and pawns and rubes for their scams, I don't think anybody out there can actually help you. You don't see it by now. Okay. Go to Steven Crowder. Lindsey Graham was strongly pushing for donations for Walker yesterday. I'd love to see how much money Lindsey Graham is getting from that. That would be very interesting. All right. See. On Monday, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a bill that targets the LGBTQ plus community. And right-wingers at home apparently love it. So first, let me get into the details of what happened. So the bill that was signed into law by Vladimir Putin expands a ban on so-called LGBTQ propaganda in Russia, making it illegal for anyone to promote same-sex relationships or suggest that non-heterosexual orientations are normal. So literally, they're banning people from even mentioning gay people or trans people or any member of that community. That's horrifying. The new laws also make it illegal to promote or praise LGBTQ relationships, publicly express non-heterosexual orientations, or suggest that they are normal. They also ban any LGBTQ content from being, posted across the internet, media, books, audiovisual services, cinema, and advertising. I mean, that sounds a lot like censorship right there. Now, in case you're wondering who the Nazis are or where they are, well, right now they seem to be in Russia. And aside from the Azov battalion, not really in Ukraine. Now, look, again, Putin is far right. The far right hates LGBTQ plus people and want them erased from existence. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're driving mentions of gay and trans people out of the conversation, out of life itself. They're driving them underground, erasing them from existence. So now, this law also significantly broadens the scope of a previous law in 2013, which banned the dissemination of LGBTQ-related information to minors. So understand, back in 2013, they said, well, look, we got to protect the children. We got to protect the children. So obviously, we cannot have discussions of gay and trans people, LGBTQ issues in schools. You know, because we got to protect the children. We might have groomers, you know, that are either grooming or they're confusing children. We don't want that to happen. That's what they said back in Russia in 2013. The new iteration then expands that ban on promoting that information to adults, which is exactly the kind of escalation that we knew was going to happen. They start with, oh, we're just trying to protect the children's. Now, I guess we got to get out right. That's what they're doing here. So understand the situation. Now, how's it relevant to the United States? Well, I mean, if you've noticed, a lot of the conversation in the far right is, oh, we have to protect children from LGBTQ. We got to protect them from the trans ideology. They're already, in Florida, they've already banned mentions of LGBTQIA plus people in schools to minors. Now, they said in Florida, of course, when the left criticized that so-called Don't Say Gay bill, they said, well, come on, that's not actually what it is. And besides, we don't actually hate gay people. No. We don't want to confuse their children. You see, we don't want to expose them to the pronouns, and we don't want to sexualize them. We want them to be kids. Just let the kids be kids. First of all, telling someone of the existence of LGBTQ plus people is not sexualizing them. It's not sexual in nature orientation. It's their identity. It's who they are. That said, here's what Steven Crowder is saying about what they're doing in Russia, which really tips their hand and shows you what they want to do here in the United States.
So under the new law, individuals can be fined over $6,000 for what they refer to as LGBT propaganda, over $3,000 for demonstrations of LGBT causes, information that encourages a change of gender among teenagers. So here's the thing. Some of that seems fair.
Right.
And if we put that into effect here, we could just basically eliminate the national debt just from the fines to Disney.
It's true. True story.
So you can comment below on what you think about this, and if you can at least understand where they're coming from. Of course, I don't think that anyone should be punished just for being gay. Of course, I believe that everyone should have equal rights here in this country. I don't believe that marriage is a fundamental human right, but I believe in civil unions, and that's always been my position. But I certainly don't think that someone should be arrested for being gay, someone should be mistreated for being gay, someone should not enjoy the same rights as everyone else. But I do understand them right now trying to safeguard when they look in the United States and they see children being put on puberty blockers, when they see hypersexualized issues being taught to children ages kindergarten through third grade. And you'll hear some people say, this is a boogeyman argument. I hear people from the left saying, no, it's not a boogeyman argument. It's not a what if. It's not a slippery slope argument. There had to be legislation proposed to stop it because of the policy of the entire DNC, to be clear. So I understand this reaction. Might be an overreaction from Russia, but you also have to understand, like with Brittany Griner, they don't share your values.
No.
They don't see a bunch of guys with leather chokers on floats having sex in the streets of San Francisco as something they want in Russia. And by the way, I would say that that's our best export as a United States.
I mean, it seems fair, why they're doing it. I understand why they're doing it. I mean, I don't agree. I don't think you should be arrested or anything like that. But, I see why they're doing it. I know why they're doing it. I mean, people in leather chokers, you don't want them having sex in the street in California, or hypersexualizing children. Well, goodness, because that's not what's happening. Nobody's having sex in the street with leather chokers. Although, even that's oddly specific. Why would you come up with that? Is that in your mind? Hey, look, I don't think there's anything wrong. with a little bit of
sexual anarchy.
But, on the street, I don't know why we would think with that about that. I don't know why your brain would go there. I don't understand. Well, then again, it is Steven Crowder. He does like to dress up as a woman now and then. Not that, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. He just really likes to do it. Okay, hey, do you, man? Do you? But then again, going seriously back to, the serious point here, he says what they're doing in Russia, it sounds fair. Some of it sounds fair. Doing massive fines to people for doing what they call gay propaganda. What happens if you don't pay the fine in Russia? By the way, as one of you points out, in the chat, maybe it's a way for Putin to raise money. That's, again, an interesting point. That could be part of the reason. Again, it also does show you how horrible of a bigot, he is, and the government is, in order to target this group of people that are already massively targeted in Russia and in places all over the world. And to try to target them to extract money for his disastrously failed war, it's just another, just adding on to the despicable things that Putin has done. That said, right? What happens if you don't pay the fine? Probably going to go to prison. I mean, at least that was probably what would happen in America. Because I don't know if you remember the story a few days ago. There's an elderly black woman who went to jail for not paying a $77 trash bill. And then, of course, that, went to the court. Court put out a warrant for her arrest, and they arrested her. And by the way, going to, anti-LGBTQ laws that have been passed in this country, look, you have states like Texas that have passed laws, and they're threatening to lock up parents of transgender children or child abuse just for doing gender-affirming care, which in the case of children involves social transition. They're not out there, getting bottom surgery when they're 6 years old, okay? That's not what's happening. Gender-affirming care, when it comes to a minor, is things like changing your name, using the pronouns, being able to dress the way that you want to dress that aligns with your gender. That's it. That's the social transition. So growing out your hair long, or in the case of, somebody being a trans man, cutting your hair short, wearing boy clothes. That's what's going on here. And it's not just in Texas. By July of this year, it had been recorded that 162 anti-LGBTQ bills had been introduced in states all over the country. And they range from banning trans girls in sports, which most places don't even have any trans students in it. Remember, one state decided they were going to pass a trans ban, even though they have no transgender students in their school whatsoever. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's a problem in search. It's a solution in search of a problem. That's what's going on. And so, again, 162 anti-LGBTQ bills, ranging from that, bathroom bills, to then also doing what they're doing in Florida, which is banning any mention of LGBTQ people in schools, in education. And what they're doing, or I should say what they've done in Russia, is exactly the next step. It's what people like Crowder eventually want to happen. And he shows us that, from by lying, and then justifying, trying to defend Russia in passing these laws by pointing out examples that don't exist. Steven Crowder, we know who you are. You're a sick person. You hate freedom. You don't actually care about the children, and especially trans children, who, in the policies and things that Steven Crowder supports and the rhetoric that he puts out in the world, actually gets trans children killed. Okay. that's all I got for time for today. So we're gonna read some super chats. Koru, being a member for 34 months. Thank you for continuing to be a member. Says the Snubs was the best thing I've seen in a long time. It felt really, really good. Indeed, I would definitely agree with that. It's good to see. Good to see.
Oh yeah.
James, a member for 30 months, said Trump is the Jesus of scams. Indeed. Very much so. I don't know if I have any sound bites for that. I don't have time for the cop story today, Chris. We'll have to get to it tomorrow. I know. Dystopian Dragon points out that the Trump organization has been found guilty, so we'll probably bring you that story tomorrow as well. Madi Darno says, by the way, Madi, hopefully you're doing much better. Noticing that you've been having some, bad days. So hopefully things are getting better, and I know that the community is with you. Says lots of love for everyone, and Jeff, too real, no lie. Y'all incredibly kind and warm-hearted, and that's a precious thing. It absolutely. Star Carpenter says, looking forward to Jeff and Farron tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that as well. So that's going to be a very, very fun show. Again, that's going to be at noon. That's Ring of Fire. Be on their show. I don't know, again, if it's going to be live, but their video will, if it's not live, the video will be out, and you can watch the conversation in full. So look forward to that. And afterwards, I will probably talk about it too. So might do a little, little sneak peek at what we talked about. Thank you very much for the very, very kind super chats. Really, really appreciate that. Let's go over to Twitch here. SBloom85, thank you for resubbing Prime for 24 months. That's 2 years and counting. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you all. Have a great, great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you.
This direction is about the people.
Oh my God! He admitted!
There's no ice cream in hell.
I apologize for nothing. I concede nothing.
Sexual anarchy.
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.